The following is a CUNY TV special presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here as we welcome back a great friend of ABNY, Governor Andrew Cuomo. Governor, we truly appreciate your time and thank you for making sure that our members, who are passionate and committed New Yorkers, hear from you directly about your latest efforts to improve our city and our state. We think of ABNY as a family, so please join me in congratulating Bill Rudin on the newest member of his and ABNY's family, a new grandchild, born last night to Michael and Sabrina Rudin. Mazel tov, Bill. I want to congratulate the New York Yankees on winning the wild card game last night. Now, I know some of us are dragging from either a late night in the Bronx or a late night of watching TV. Our next stop is Boston, a team that had a pretty good season and has a lot of supporters, some even here in our city. I want to wish the Yankees well. By the way, we forgive, we don't blame, we just want to encourage people to root for New York teams. Well, I want to wish the Yankees well as they hunt for another World Series title for New York. On behalf of ABNY, I want to congratulate the governor on a decisive primary victory, where he won more votes in a Democratic primary than any other governor in our state's history. His win says to me that there are a lot of people truly energized about the work that he's doing, whether it's taking on the Trump administration on issues like immigration and tax policy, or reimagining our infrastructure, so it's both bold and effective. As New Yorkers, we're proud of the things our leaders accomplish, and what those things say about us and what they say about our state. So I'll mention just a few of the governor's accomplishments in his record. He passed the marriage equality law when it seemed impossible. He pushed through stronger gun control laws. He raised the minimum wage. He instituted a program to offer free tuition for middle-class New Yorkers at our wonderful CUNY and SUNY schools. He delivered 8 timely budgets, and he is overseeing an infrastructure development program in scope not seen since the days of Robert Moses, even as he respects the spirit of Jane Jacobs. The last point on infrastructure is critical. I know as we all go through our lives every day, we feel our aging infrastructure more and more. Governor Cuomo spoke for all of us when he called Penn Station one of the circles of hell from Dante's Inferno. And when he joined former Vice President Biden in comparing LaGuardia to an airport from the third world. At ABNY, we applaud his focus on infrastructure and the investments he's making across the state. In the past, we've heard directly from him on his plans for a new Penn Moynihan complex, on transforming LaGuardia, on fixing the stubways, and building a new track for the LIRR, just to name a few. Governor, we're eager to hear what's next. Now, to walk us through today's big announcement, please join me in welcoming a key member of the governor's team who is spearheading infrastructure projects across the region, Executive Director of the Port Authority, Rick Cotton.
I'm delighted to be here, although, Governor, I have to say, as I look out over this impressive crowd and think about the announcements that we have to make this morning, it seems like just yesterday that I was sitting at my desk in NBC and just minding my own business. But that's another story. So, speaking of the Port Authority, the Port Authority was founded to build transformational infrastructure, and for 50 years it did. The George Washington Bridge, the Lincoln Tunnel, 2 of the most iconic and recognizable engineering feats in this region's history. But over more recent decades, it diverted from major transportation infrastructure to planning and real estate. We, like the rest of the nation, underinvested. But over the last 8 years, it has begun to get back to its visionary roots. The Goethals Bridge, completed earlier this year, was the first bridge built by the Port Authority in more than 80 years. The Bayonne Bridge, raised 18 months ago to accommodate the larger supertankers, and our port activities are benefiting today with record cargo volumes. An $8 billion LaGuardia redevelopment is rising before our eyes. $8 billion. It is literally the largest transportation infrastructure construction project anywhere in the United States of America. And by the way, it's taking place on a postage stamp in the great borough of Queens, taking place on a postage stamp where, despite the construction activities, the airport is handling record volumes literally every month, record numbers of passengers, with facilities that are outmoded and undersized. And finally, we've also begun a $2.7 billion Newark Terminal 1 under construction, and it's replacing a Terminal A that should have been retired years and years ago. But today, we turn our attention to JFK, our busiest airport and our international travel centerpiece. In 1948, it was truly state-of-the-art, admired around the world. Kennedy was a worthy gateway to the world and to the state. But over the years, traffic volumes have soared. Passenger numbers today, 60 million passengers a year, far beyond its design capacity. And constant growth. Literally every month this year, the airport is setting a new record in terms of passengers handled. The existing passenger facilities simply cannot handle projected volumes of passengers. Even worse, JFK has endured decades of underinvestment. Today, as we all know, it is outmoded, far below global standards. Every time I hear people discuss coming back from Europe or from Asia, their primary comparison when airports come up is to say, why are New York's facilities so far below what they have just experienced elsewhere in the world? The result? Abysmal. That's a carefully chosen word. It's abysmal customer rankings. We simply reap what we sow. Tragically, these ratings come as no surprise to anyone. They have become accepted. That is simply cannot continue. It is not by any measure New York. Last year, Governor Cuomo said no more. He announced his vision for a new JFK. The governor's advisory panel delivered a comprehensive vision plan in 2017. The goal, transform JFK into the airport and the gateway New York deserves. Integrate the airport, add world-class amenities, streamline the traffic pattern, radically improve ground transportation access, expand gate capacity, integrate 21st century security technology. And the Port Authority called on the JFK leaseholders to respond. Today, we are announcing a $13 billion plan to build a new JFK. We are announcing two winning proposals, two key pillars for redeveloping the new JFK, which we will be submitting to the Port Authority Board. First, the Terminal 1 Group, a coalition of Lufthansa, Air France, Japan Airlines, and Korean Airlines. That group will develop a brand new, expanded, dramatically expanded South Terminal. On the north, we have selected JetBlue to develop a major new international terminal adjacent to its existing terminal. The selection of these two proposals culminated an extensive year-long evaluation by a committee of Port Authority experts. Governor Cuomo challenged us to leverage precious Port Authority capital plan dollars to maximize private investment. We have done just that, with more than 90% of the $13 billion investment coming from private, non-Port Authority capital sources. This is the largest transportation infrastructure commitment in the 97-year history of the Port Authority. So what's the plan? Today, JFK is a hodgepodge of 8 disparate terminal sites. Some of the sites are literally vacant. Some of the terminal buildings literally 50 or more years old. We're transforming that disconnected hodgepodge into a unified 21st century airport. These 2 proposals will demolish 3 outdated, undersized terminal buildings. They will utilize 2 vacant sites and build 2 world-class international terminals, one anchoring the south and one anchoring the north. At the center of the airport, we plan as a separate initiative to develop a new Kennedy Central hub. We will issue an RFI seeking submissions on how to transform the central area of JFK based on best practices from other global airports. Shopping, green space, cultural, all of these are on the table as potential candidates. Our timeline will be ambitious. Have I got that right, Governor?
Yes, very ambitious.
We have a very aggressive permitting and construction schedule with new facilities to start opening in 2023. Like LaGuardia, it will be a hopscotch construction schedule. We will build new, we will then demolish old, we will build new where the old facilities were, but we will maintain a full operational schedule during construction. This historic project will both increase capacities and achieve best-in-class customer experience from curb to gate. These 2 projects will dramatically expand terminal space with modern, iconic architecture. As is happening around the globe, JFK will become a destination unto itself. Interior green space, exhibits, art, iconic New York landmarks. World-class retail, trendy restaurant and bars, and Governor, we certainly won't forget Taste New York stores. We will provide exceptionally fast Wi-Fi and plenty of charging stations everywhere you look. We will have special accommodations for families, the elderly, special needs passengers. And of course, next summer, the world-class full-service TWA hotel. This will open and it will build on Kennedy's storied past and reinvigorate one of the airport's most recognizable landmarks. Of course, we will build the new terminals with state-of-the-art security, radiation detection, facial recognition, biometrics, identification, automatic video identification of potentially dangerous stationary objects, all will be incorporated into the design. The airport, working with the sponsors of these 2 projects, will reconfigure airside taxiways, build new gates, and we will generally focus on allowing bigger, more fuel-efficient, and quieter airplanes that can increase airport capacity even without adding new flights. The plan calls for streamlining the traffic pattern in accessing the airport. Ultimately, the plan will result within the airport grounds in a northern loop and a southern loop, far simpler and far more streamlined than the spaghetti that currently exists. Complementing the 2 loop roads, we plan 2 centrally located taxi, bus, and parking centers, and a special side entrance where cabs, for-hire vehicles, and shuttle buses will enter, and we will keep traffic off of the frontages. We will create an architecturally appealing airport entrance, and indeed, at least as important, working with New York State DOT, we will create an artistically designed exit, which for arriving passengers is their arrival experience in New York, and we will welcome travelers to New York in a fitting, creative fashion rather than the jumble that now assaults the senses. We will achieve expanded capacity for the air train by adding cars. We will coordinate with the MTA as the LIRR is expanding capacity at Jamaica Station. With respect to roadway access to JFK, the New York State Department of Transportation has moved forward on Governor Cuomo's highway initiatives announced last year. Construction to add lanes to the infamous Kew Gardens interchange will begin later this year, and it will dramatically increase the traffic capacity of that extraordinary pain point. Construction on the expansion of the Van Wyck from its current 3 lanes to 4 lanes in each direction will begin next year. The 4th lane will have multiple benefits. It will speed traffic, create the possibility of managed use lanes, and reduce the incentive for drivers to seek shortcuts through community streets. Now, speaking of community streets, we are fully committed as we move forward with these projects to a robust community development program. We intend to honor and to embrace intensely the nation-leading 30% MWBE goal that the governor has set. We will apply that goal to all contracts, paying particular attention to professional services, which I might add has been a passionate focus of Congressman Meeks, as well as to financing interests. We will provide technical assistance and access to capital to assure that MWBE firms can take advantage of these opportunities. We intend to engage and focus local businesses in Queens. We intend to focus on local hiring, and we will strenuously attempt to provide job training and certification for local residents, particularly employing and focusing on developing apprenticeship programs that can feed into trades that will provide careers that will support people in the community. And finally, to accelerate and to empower all of these initiatives, we will be opening a new community office in Jamaica this fall. As the foundation block and the coordinating engine for this community development effort, we are creating a special community advisory council. The council will be co-chaired by Borough President Melinda Katz and Congressman Meeks. And I want to thank each of them for their intelligent advice, their deep engagement, and their guidance as we embark on this historic project with community development orientation that we are committed to make successful. This project will generate nearly 10,000 good-paying jobs, and, as I said before, as with any good Governor Cuomo project, we are committed to an aggressive timeline. We are committed to delivering for New York and for the region. And by the way, we're not done yet. We will have further important JFK announcements as we move forward on transforming the airport. I'd like to thank Governor Cuomo for leading the charge on yet another transformational infrastructure project that will benefit New Yorkers, the region, and generations of travelers. And with that, I would like to introduce the 56th Governor of the State of New York, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Boy, this is great news, and the Lord knows we need some good news just about now. To the Port Authority, to the Port Authority Board, that has been extraordinary. Chairman O'Toole of the Port Authority wanted to be with us today. He was coming across the bridge, and apparently his passport to enter New York was not in order. So give Chairman O'Toole and the Port Authority Board a big round of applause. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for getting it done. Rick Cotton, who, as he said in his mild-mannered way, he could be sitting back at NBC. He's been a phenomenal success in the private sector. He could be doing anything, anywhere, or just sitting on the beach and playing a little golf. He is an example of public service at its best. He is quality. He doesn't need to do this. He's doing it just to make a difference. And we thank him. Rick Cotton. To Stephen Rubenstein, congratulations on your leadership. It does my heart good to see a son following in his father's footsteps. So let's give Stephen Rubenstein a big round of applause. You know, JFK, LaGuardia, it's amazing when you think about it how long these situations have been allowed to go on. It's not like this happened overnight, that JFK was outdated or LaGuardia that was outdated. JFK has been outdated all of my life. I'm a Queens boy, in case you can't tell the accent. But in my home, when the call went out, you have to pick someone up at JFK. You know, it was a drawing of the short straws, right? That was a torture, you know. If you could survive the Van Wyck Expressway, right? Put splinters under my fingernails instead, it'd be quicker. And then trying to figure out that spaghetti bowl of JFK with all those signs, it was just impossible. I wouldn't do it. I made my younger brother, Chris, do it. It has instilled in him a deep resentment to this day that actually exists. So it was long, long overdue, but so many of the things that we're talking about are long overdue. And it's not just a New York story. It is a United States story. We are losing the development race. It's a race that we won. It's a race that made America, America. It's a race that made New York, New York, and now we're losing it. You fly around the world and look at what everybody else is building, and then you come back to the United States, and you understand that we are being left behind. There's some mentality where we're resting on our laurels. Well, our forefathers did all this, and it's our inheritance, our legacy, and they handed it to us, and we're just going to sit and enjoy their gift. That's not the way it works. Either you are building and you are creating, or you are getting left behind. That is the simple reality of life. I was HUD secretary, and I would fly all around to the country, and my message to every city was the same. Look, either you're developing and the future is coming to you, or they're going to someone else. But status quo, sitting where you are, that is a formula for loss, my friends. You are what you build. A.J. Parkinson, great quote. And you are what you build. And look at what we built as New Yorkers. We built the greatest state in the nation. It didn't just happen. It wasn't evolution. We built it. We made it happen. Tallest buildings, 600 miles of subways, longest bridges. You can't do it, it's impossible. Baloney, we're New York, we will do it. And we did do it. And that's what we made. Every president has said, we must rebuild our infrastructure. We must rebuild our transportation. Democrat, Republican, Ronald Reagan said it. Jimmy Carter said it. President Clinton said it. President Obama said it. Vice President Biden is still saying it. President Trump said, not to get political, are you a not-for-profit organization? Donald Trump said when he was running, I will invest in the infrastructure $1.5 trillion. That was his promise. That's what he said. You know what we've gotten? Nada, niente, nothing has happened. So what we said in New York is, look, we're not going to wait for the federal government. We've never waited before. New York's legacy is not what it is because we waited for the federal government to tell us what we should or should not do. We did it. And the rest of the nation followed us. So we said we're going to fund the largest construction program in the United States of America, $100 billion. And people said, oh, geez, we don't know. Government doesn't know how to build. Every time government goes to build, they mess it up. The big dig in Massachusetts, everyone has a horror story. We said, we're going to learn from the past, we're going to learn from our mistakes. You know what? We're not going to build anything. Know what you know and know what you don't know. And it's more important to know what you don't know in life. We're not going to build. Why? Because government is lousy at building. That's why. Government can master plan, but then give it to the private sector, let them design it, let them build it, bid it, get the best price, incentives for early delivery, sanctions for late delivery, but get government out of the building and the design process. And that's exactly what we did. And we are building more than any state in the United States. Stephen is right, we're building more than has been built since Robert Moses in a more sensitive, community-friendly way. Not to criticize Robert Moses. Jacob Javits Center was opened in 1984. My father opened it. When it opened, it was state-of-the-art. It was the biggest, it was the best. Time moved on. It is no longer the biggest and the best. We're losing the big shows. We're going to basically double the size of the Jacob Javits Convention Center. Getting those shows here is a tremendous economic vehicle for the city. Penn Station is the circles of hell. It is. Amtrak doesn't like it when I say it. I'm sorry, but the truth is the truth. I have a large nose. Admitting it is just reality. We have to make significant changes in Penn, and in the meantime, what we're doing is building an entirely new train hall across the street, the Moynihan-Farley train complex. It was a dream of Senator Moynihan. It sat on a shelf. We are doing it. It's under construction. It's on schedule. It's $2.5 billion. And that's happening now. New Kosciuszko Bridge is being built. Slides are going backwards. New Goethals Bridge, as you heard from Rick, is being built. Long Island Railroad has been stagnant for 70 years. It's basically the same railroad system that they built 100 years ago. When you hear about the problems on the Long Island Railroad in the morning and they say there's a problem on the track, that is literally correct, because in some places there's one track. And if anything happens on that track, it delays trains for hours. God forbid a squirrel walks on the track and has a heart attack. Everybody is 4 hours late for work. We're building a second track, we're building a third track, we're rebuilding the whole Long Island Railroad. Cashless tolling. They did it all across the country, only New York couldn't figure out how to do it. We did it fast, it saves time, it saves money. When you go through a bridge or a tunnel, it's a totally different experience, and frankly, it happened so quickly that people didn't even realize. Quick digression, funny story. An aunt of mine was coming through in a car, coming into Manhattan. She didn't come in all that often, and she's getting on in years at the time. And the driver goes to drive right through the toll booth, right to the tunnel. And she says, "Stop, stop. We didn't pay the toll." And the driver said, "No, there's now an electronic toll." She said, no, my nephew is the governor. I have to pay the toll." It literally happened so fast and so well that it changed people's experience. New LaGuardia Airport, as you know, new JFK International Airport, our two main airports. Now, a cynical Times reporter will say, "Oh, that's all you're doing is two new airports?" Well, actually, not exactly. Two new airports downstate, upstate, new Plattsburgh Airport, new Elmira Corning Airport, new Syracuse International Airport, new Rochester Airport, new Albany Airport, new Ithaca Airport, New York Stewart International Airport that's going to open up the Hudson Valley. So it's not just downstate. This is a statewide rehabilitation and New York program. What's next in terms of challenges? It's going to be the MTA and fixing the New York City subway system. It's going to require the largest investment in history, $30 billion. It is something that we have to do. and we have to come to terms with it. What is the obstacle to rebuilding the subway system? It is the money, honey. That's what it is about. It is about the money. And you're now having this political discussion, well, where should the money come from? Here are the options. God is going to send down $33 billion, and it is going to descend from the clouds. That's not going to happen. Option two, we'll look under the city and the state mattress, and maybe we will find $33 billion. That's not going to happen. Well, New York City is going to dig into its pocket, and they're going to ante up, and the state will ante up. That's not going to happen. There is only one way it happens, that is congestion pricing. Everything else is political blather. Well, ideally, we would like to have a millionaire's tax. Yes. I wish I could be an elected official who lived in the ideal. Unfortunately, I'm an executive, so I actually have to get things done. The only realistic option is congestion pricing. We have to get it done. We have to get it done next year. I need your help. If we get the funding, we will get it done. If we get the funding, we will get it done. Well, how do we know you will get it done? Because we have a track record of performance. Go look at what they're doing at LaGuardia. It is amazing that you can operate an airport and build a new airport on that small piece of land. Not that it's pretty, not that it's easy, but we are doing it on time and on budget. Go look at the new Kosciuszko Bridge, and go look at the Mario Cuomo Bridge. Largest infrastructure project in the United States of America. A $4 billion project. It was on the cover of President Obama's last budget document as the premier infrastructure program. It came in on time, it came in on budget. We can do it. If we get the funding, we will make these things happen because we work at it every day. You ask anyone who's in the real estate construction industry, how do you get a project done on time? You show up every day and you push that project along. And that is exactly what we did with the Tappan Zee, what Rick and the Port Authority are going to do with JFK and LaGuardia, and that's what we will do with the MTA projects. I'm going to propose next year to raise our $100 billion investment to $150 billion over the next 5 years. It will provide thousands of good-paying middle-class jobs, which is what this nation needs, that middle-class anxiety. It will provide a generation of good-paying union jobs that have an apprentice program and have benefits and have safety and have training. And it will create a new economic future for New York. As I mentioned, I was HUD secretary. The state that leads in transportation and infrastructure and technology is going to be the state where the economy wins. That can be New York. That can be New York, and we are on the track to do it. There's a moment in time for us to seal our future and our fate as the #1 state in the nation again. Fortune favors the bold. New York is the state of the bold. We always have been. Look at what we've done. Look at what we've built. Look at what we accomplished. We took a little sliver of land called Manhattan. We made it one of the greatest places in the United States of America. Every building, every design, every architectural challenge, We led the nation because we dared to lead. Leadership is not easy. It's frightening and it's risky and it's hard and you have to work at it. But that's why we are New Yorkers. That's what's in our blood and our DNA and in our cells. Otherwise, we would not be here. You wouldn't make it in this city if you didn't have that Constitution and that drive. So let's do it. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Rick, for that inspirational and ambitious announcement. The Governor's graciously agreed to take a few questions. I have one over there. Got you. Maybe stand up. Do we have a mic? Thank you.
You know, as a New Yorker, it's hard to, these big sort of ambitious projects and numbers, it's sometimes easy to lose the idea that these projects have direct impacts on people's lives. So as a working full-time mom, schlepping 3 kids on our city and state's infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, appreciate so much, Governor, your leadership and investment in all of these things that really do have a direct impact on everybody's day-to-day quality of life. So I'm just curious, is there anything next after JFK? What else in terms of next steps? and why aren't other states, doing more of these type of projects?
So what I love about New Yorkers, they are never satisfied. Never. It is the insatiable New York appetite. What's next? Sleep is next. A long period of sleep. A deep, restful sleep with no anxiety and no BlackBerry and no tornado watches going off in the middle of the night. What's next? I don't know, Rick. What do you think is next? What's next is the New York City subway system. That is what is next. And we have a very good start. We started something called the Subway Action Plan, which was an emergency action plan. It was $800 million. We had hit a hurdle when the city refused to fund half of it. My offer was half from the state, half from the city. As Mayor Dinkins will tell you, historically the city contributed more, believe it or not, to the MTA capital than the state. I said, let's do it 50-50. And New York City refused to put in 50%. We had to pass a state budget. That state budget actually took the money from the city, funded the Subway Action Plan. That's underway, and that is making a difference. But what's really happening on the subways is we have 100 years of ignoring the capital needs. Why? Because it happens in government, it happens in private businesses. The first thing to go is always maintenance. Just check that off, we'll do it next year. Well, you do that long enough, we now have 40, 50-year-old subway cars. You have 100-year-old electric switches that were doused with salt water. You have a massive reconstruction program in the subways. It's going to be about $30 billion. I have no problem stepping up and taking the responsibility. We need the funding, and that's where we go back to congestion pricing. And I need the politicians to stop playing politics and calling for these taxes and actually getting real on where the funding is going to come from. And I don't believe there's any real option but congestion pricing. Once we get the funding, we will make the improvements. And that is, I believe, one of the central challenges for the future of New York City. If you ask me, what does the future hold for New York City? I think a large part of it is dependent on making those improvements to the subway system. It is outdated, it can't handle the volume, and if you can't move people, you can't grow the economy. It's that simple.
Right there, Jen. And former executive director of ABNY. Thank you.
Oh, then you're conflicted. Sit down. Yes. Question is, what about Gateway? Stephen, you never answered me the question. Are you a not-for-profit organization, a C3 or a C4? Before I answer.
We are a not-for-profit organization. We are a C4. Thank you.
Okay.
We are unabashed promoters of New York, I would say.
Okay. Well, I have a First Amendment right anyway, so I really don't care what your tax classification is. Gateway tunnels are second to the subway reconstruction. I would say it's the Gateway Tunnel. Gateway tunnels are two tunnels that go from New York to New Jersey. They carry all the Amtrak trains, not just to New York. They carry them to the entire Northeast. The tunnels are old and damaged, and they were damaged by Hurricane Sandy. They have to be replaced. It's not that easy to replace a tunnel. If you started tomorrow, it has to be 7-8 years if it's a day. We had worked with the Obama administration and come up with an agreement where basically it was 50% federal, 50% city and state. New Jersey was a Republican governor at the time, Chris Christie, and myself agreed to do 50%, which was frankly, I thought, very generous. We had that agreement. President Trump came in, negated that agreement. We are now nowhere. My opinion is he's using it as a bargaining chip with the Congress and with the Senate because Trump still wants to build the wall on the Mexico border. I think because he wants to put his name in big gold letters, Trump, on the wall, but that's my personal opinion. And he's holding Gateway hostage. It is reckless, it is irresponsible, it is politics over government. It's endangering public safety. I've appealed to him personally. We've written letters. Jerry Nadler is here. Congressman Meeks is here. The entire delegation has gone to him. No answer. I've gone to Washington and met with him. No answer. The next thing we're going to do is I'm literally going to produce a video of the inside of the Gateway tunnels and send the video to the president and release the video showing the situation that exists, right? We somehow have to get out of this political reality and get to the fundamental reality, which is I don't care what your politics is. I really don't. Political polarization, personal politics, ideological politics are paralyzing this nation right now, and it's separating and it's dividing us. Here's a video of reality. It's a tunnel. It's going to collapse. It's not a Democratic tunnel. It's not a Republican tunnel. It's not a liberal tunnel. It's not a conservative tunnel. It's just a tunnel. And it's an old tunnel, and it's going to collapse. So stop the politics. Let's fund it, let's do it, and let's start now.
Mitchell? Mitchell.
Please identify yourself. Are you from New Jersey or New York?
I'm from New York. I was raised 5 miles from JFK. I think we all appreciate your support of the airports and mass transit. So I'd like to take you to a different topic. As you know, this week the FBI is investigating allegations against Judge Kavanaugh. Could you let us know where you stand on his confirmation?
See, Mitchell, they should have never called on Mitchell for a question. He always asks those really difficult questions. Kavanaugh, I do not believe should be confirmed for a number of reasons. I thought his performance before the Senate Judiciary Committee was disrespectful. I think he showed and manifested a partisanship and a partisan anger. You know, you can be partisan, but you can be constructive. You can be partisan and negative and angry and destructive. And that's what I heard in his voice. And I did not see a judicial temperament. I believe they will confirm him. I believe the Republican Party are basically afraid not to confirm him. Even the New York Republicans are afraid to oppose him. You ask the New York Republicans where they stand, they won't say they oppose Kavanaugh. They're all Trump mini-me's, and they're all in line behind Trump. Yeah, you're for him. Chairman Cox is for Kavanaugh. My point, mini-me Cox. So they support Kavanaugh. I think Kavanaugh is in a long line of Republican manifestations of disrespect for women. It started when the Republicans said they're against a woman's right to choose, where it started. It started when the Republicans said they're against a woman's right to choose, and they want to roll back Roe v. Wade. They want to take us back decades. You know, when they talk about let's make America great again, well, the again is a retrospective concept. Let's go back before Roe v. Wade, before women had a right to choose. We then tried to pass Roe v. Wade in this state. The Republicans stopped it from passing in this state. We then tried to pass an equal pay amendment for women because we believe women should receive equal pay. 5 times the Republican candidate for governor opposed. 5 times the Republican candidate for governor opposed the equal pay amendment. That is disrespect to women. One of the most outrageous signs of the disrespect. The Republican candidate for governor voted for a bill that required a female inmate to be shackled during childbirth. I mean, just think about the inhumanity of that. Who would require a woman to be shackled to a bed during childbirth? It's not Kavanaugh. It's ... connect the dots. And being pro-Kavanaugh, against a woman's right to choose, against a woman's right to have equal pay, shackling her to a gurney when she's in the middle of childbirth, refusing to do anything after the Me Too movement, where thousands of women came forward and told terrible stories, and Washington did absolutely nothing. And this state passed the strongest anti-sexual harassment law in the United States of America. That's why women are fed up. That's why Kavanaugh is a lightning rod, because it's not Kavanaugh. It's decades of sexism and a culture that discriminated against women, and women not having the same amount of power, and they're saying enough. And the Republicans are saying, we're going to keep the status quo, and I believe in November they're going to tell the Republicans where to go.
I'm going to ask just one final question because we are about out of time. Governor, can you say something about SALT, what it looks like, the prospects for us, and how we in this room could help?
Well, not that I want to come off anti-Republican. Salt. I believe salt is unconstitutional and illegal, and was one of the great acts of political retribution legislated by Washington. It's complicated, so nobody paid attention to it, and people glazed over, and it's been one of the great frustrations that I've had trying to explain it. SALT stands for state and local tax. What the Trump tax reform bill did last December, when it cut the rates, et cetera, and forget how you feel about the cutting the rates and the corporate rate, et cetera, that's your opinion. In that bill, it said state and local governments will no longer be allowed to deduct their local taxes. What does that mean? Since 1861, when Lincoln passed the first income tax, it said the federal tax will be levied after you pay state and local taxes. So you make $100, you pay $10 in income tax and property tax, that leaves you with $90. The federal tax then applies to the $90. That is the way it has been since 1861. Ronald Reagan tried to change it and lost, and that's the way it's been since 1861. Trump needed money to finance his tax cut. So what they said is, we're going to end the deductibility of the state and local taxes, which means you make $100, you pay $10 income tax and property tax, you get down to $90, they're not taxing $90, they're going to tax you on $100, which means for the first time in history, they are taxing the tax that you pay to the state and local governments. It will have the effect of basically raising your income tax and your property tax about 30%. Who does it apply to? States that have high state and local taxes. Well, what states are those? There are 12 of them. They all happen to be Democratic. They all happen to be states that Trump lost. And New York happens to be the #1 state most affected. It will cost New York State $14 billion more per year. This is on top of the fact that Senator Moynihan, God rest his soul, used to point out that New York City was already the #1 donor state in the United States, sending more to Washington than it got back. So our taxes, it will go into effect next year. That's why you haven't heard the outrage. You pay $40,000 in property taxes in Westchester or Nassau that have the highest property taxes in the United States. Right now, you deduct that. Next year, you get taxed on it. So the $40,000 goes up to $52,000. You are already seeing the housing market in the suburbs slow down. Your income tax in the city of New York, you pay $100,000 in income tax, you're now going to pay $130,000 in income tax. It is going to be devastating to this state and put us at a structural disadvantage. Every other state in the country got a tax cut. We got a tax cut plus a tax increase. The state of New York is suing the federal government. I hope we win the Congress as Democrats, and every Democrat I'm talking to, I say, before I support you, you have to make a promise that the first thing you're going to do is repeal SALT, because it was politically motivated. It kills this state. My job is to protect this state. It taxes not just Democrats, it taxes Democrats and Republicans. And it is going to hurt the home values and the real estate value of New York. I cut taxes in New York State. The Republicans will tell you how good they are at fiscal conservatism. My year-to-year increases have been lower than any Republican governor. Governor George Pataki, good man, conservative. Year to year, his state increases went up about 5% a year. My state increases have gone up less than 2% a year. We have been fiscally responsible. I've cut taxes. Everybody in this room pays a lower tax rate today than the day I was elected. Middle class tax rate is down to the lowest rate since 1947. I put in place a property tax cap to close the growth in the suburbs. This explodes all of it. It's all out the window. We have a 2% property tax cap. This is going to be a 30% one-time increase. It is devastating to the state. We have to speak up. I believe the only way we stop it is either the court case, but now that Trump is going to be the puppeteer of the Supreme Court, the odds on that went down, or a Democratic Congress that refuses to pass any bill before they remove the injustice of SALT.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming. We hope to see you next time. Thank you, Governor.